laid across this table?
You would not touch end to end. How tall are you?
5'4".
You will not touch end to end.
I find that hard to believe.
I do too.
Christine, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but
What's that?
you're a giant in a midget's world only, okay?
Did you get in there yet, Tim, or no?
But the real world, you and I are short.
Hey, you there or no? It's too late, don't worry about it. I'm gonna start.
Go.
Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, this is a test. 1, 2.
Here, in case they want, I'm gonna go check it right now.
It's a check.
Mine's fast.
Welcome. Please enter your conference number followed by the pound key. After the tone, say your name and then press the pound key.
Pat Jordan, Christine Studo, Rich Hendrick, Dave Williams, and Jim Teller.
Thank you.
Is that on, Chuck? Jeez.
I've got my iPad, my laptop, my Surface.
We are recording this meeting as well.
Okay, I'm glad. Hope we're started after my comment about FETV. So we've already recorded with the roll call the members present. The first item we have is approval of minutes from the October 23rd, 2019 Finance Committee meeting. I believe they were attached to the agenda. Are there any comments on those meeting minutes? Any additions, deletions, corrections?
No, so move to approve the minutes as presented.
Do I have a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the next item we have is the first quarter 2020 financial review. And again, that material was also included with the meeting packet sent out. Christine, are you going to lead the discussion on that?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
So looking at the 2020 forecast through the results through March 31st, our total revenue projection for the end of the year has a slight negative variance, about $30,000. That is mostly due to mortgage. I'm projecting a slight variance, negative variance. For operating expenses, we are projecting to be under budget by about $500,000. The major areas are payroll and related expenses. That is due to 2 open positions we have, and also currently we're under budget in health insurance payments and expenses. The other projected decreases are in professional and consulting fees, as well as currently we don't project using the contingency. So another variance is our depreciation expense. We're tracking lower than budgeted for this year. And so our year-to-date, we expect to be actually a negative variance of $2 million. And this is because of our grant revenue. We had budgeted $12 million. And I don't think because of the timing and some delays that we'll be utilizing that this year. So right now I'm forecasting a total of $9 million for the year. Any comments?
And so that remainder of the grant revenue would we anticipate receiving in 2021?
Correct.
Okay.
Christine, this is Joe. I have a question on the rental income. I know some of that was probably, some of that's a little front-loaded. But I think the other question I have is more related to the businesses that some of our tenants have. Are any of them potentially going to be rent income issues because of a lack of business income on their end?
Currently, we have one tenant who has reached out to us, and they've asked for a 3-month hold on half of their rent, but they do at this point plan on catching that up. So
there is some element of risk in that number, but not
correct.
Perhaps too high a risk at this point.
At this point, yes.
Okay.
Fingers crossed on that.
Well, yeah, I guess it's more than fingers crossed, so, if that gets the, to, I don't know, it's something to think about.
Yeah. Well, and I think we've done, we've really tightened the reins on other spending as well. So, hopefully we won't.
That's the right, it's the prudent approach.
Yeah.
Are there any questions from the members or the board members on the forecast portion of the report?
No.
Okay. Okay, Christine, you can keep moving along.
Okay, the statement of net position. So the only comments I have on that our investments are up from this period last year, about $300,000. Our grants receivable is down about $4 million. That's just in a timing issue. Now as the spring hopefully will be here soon, we'll start ramping up our construction and other projects, so that we'll see an uptick in the grants receivable. In the liability section, we paid down since last year about $1.3 million in our Bank of America leases. And also, we no longer have the retainage payable on the books because that project had been completed.
Gotcha.
Any questions?
Any questions on the balance sheet?
No.
Okay, moving right along, Christine?
Yes, so we sent out this morning our first quarter reporting on our 2020 budget goals. So this is our first time reporting on this, and we found it to be a very useful exercise that I think will help us to make decisions as we go forward this year. And we also be able to improve our reporting in the future quarters to the board. So I ask that if you want to review it and ask any questions, or feel free to email me after the meeting with any questions on this. One thing I would like to point out is on the maritime goals, we've kind of put a hold, not a hold, but we've realized that the goal of obtaining new export business is not something we'll probably realize in this fiscal year, but we are continuing our efforts in that, but we think that we'll see some results in 2021, but not 2020 on those goals. Everything else seems to be nothing very large lagging. And again, on the export businesses, we hadn't put any financial implications for that in the budget for this year.
No, but I think on the other hand, it's still good to keep the hammer down, so when things are positioned better, we will also be positioned as well as we can.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree. I think these are very useful tools. It helps shed some light on the items that you're really trying to get accomplished. And I appreciate you sharing this with us. I thought it was helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions on the budget goal document that we're looking at?
None here.
Okay, can I? Can I make one other
Please, go
comment?
ahead.
In some of the areas for the metrics under the maritime, I've added some things in parentheses. Those are updated metrics that Tony has provided. For example, the calcium chloride. We originally we had thought we'd get 10 to 12,000, but now Tony's projecting his goal to be 8,000 short tons. So there's a couple instances where I've added those under the metric.
All right, that's on the bottom of the first page.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, where it says retain imports.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other comments, Christine?
No, none at this time.
Are there any other elements that need to get discussed by anyone for the first quarter 2020 financial review? Okay.
No, sorry, I have just as it relates to our grants, and I don't know if now's the appropriate time or if it's in full session, but with the stop on construction, do we see that impacting any of our those our terminal project stuff that we have going on, as well as obviously we haven't received full approval from the town of Bethlehem, so some of that construction isn't really starting. But do we see any of the current paused, state mandates impacting our work?
No, there's no impact right now, Georgette. We have affirmative confirmation that the Maritime Warehouse has been deemed an essential construction project, and that is certainly going forward. And I believe, and Megan can chime in, that the 80 acres in Bethlehem, what's being planned there, that those would fall in line the same way.
That's deemed essential.
Yes.
Well,
Okay, thank you.
Megan.
If there's going to be a positive light about it at all, too, we're sick in the design phase on the expansion right now, too, and probably will be for the next several months. So hopefully by the time things would get to normal, it would be timely in that respect. We'll talk a little bit more about it when it gets to the update, but this allows time for the necessary infrastructure design, bridge design work, and then that would have to go to site plan review as well. So from that perspective, that's good. The other thing I wanted to mention related to the Tiger funding is the Maritime Warehouse we confirmed, like Pat said, that it's essential, but also we continue to do our quarterly reports and our drawdown to the federal government. We just submitted our quarterly report. It had interaction in the last 5 days, and that was positive. The drawdowns may be smaller at the moment, but we're still processing them through and still having the same regular interaction. So that is proceeding, I'd say as normal or / quasi-normal.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Are any of our contractors or consultants been impacted by the recent events?
Megan.
No, I mean, as far as work, so I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but we did put out the bid on the Maritime Warehouse as expected. Our construction manager advisor has been working with us as regular. I say the only difference that we're experiencing is adding just a little bit of time. So where before we may have allowed 3 to 4 weeks for a bid, we've allowed, we've allowed 5 weeks to give a little bit more time for the remote work. Our construction manager advisor has used the time to do outreach to different groups to be able to participate, but the back and forth on questions that we've received on the bid request has been quite active. There's a lot of interest. We did put the bid out differently, where we would normally do a required bid pre-bid meeting. We didn't do that. We did as much virtual posting as we could, including the security team coordinated a drone flyover, which allowed people to be able to see it that way virtually, and also the maintenance and operations team combed out where the building would be so that people could go on their own and see where the building would be, and then we've had allowing for regular interaction. So while it's different, it's still proceeding.
I would suggest, even in the current environment where everything is virtual, it may not be a bad idea to still attempt a pre-bid meeting via Zoom to try to clarify some questions that folks may have in general that may make some of the addenda or other potential contractual issues de minimis. Just something to think about.
Okay, I appreciate that point, because we really struggled in the beginning with what was best and what was socially responsible and also what was prudent with work. And we did agree as a team to do it this way, but we also agreed and inquired about, you know, a Zoom or a virtual meeting, and agreed that we would check in with everybody based on the level of inquiry. So I'll actually go back to our construction manager advisor and test this again on point. Good point. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too, Megan, it's not impossible to have a pre-bid meeting respecting social distancing. This is a pretty, you know, some of these projects are pretty hefty, and I would just try to make every tool available to get as much information shared and dialogue as we can back and forth to make sure we get as competitive a bid price with minimal risk on the contractor side as possible. The more risk they have, the higher the bids are going to be.
I'd agree, and we really spent a fair amount of time with this, and even looking at the executive orders. On the one hand, we didn't want to reduce access or reduce awareness of information, but on the other hand, we certainly didn't want to be pointed out as a bad example of gathering people. We had talked about even staging, you know, pre-bid meetings so that there may be, you know, one every 15 minutes or something to that extent, but decided to do it this way. And we're also using a procurement platform where all of the entities can go for the data, so they can all access that, and hopefully that would make it a little bit as streamlined as possible, because this is definitely different for us, and we want it to be the most responsible but also the most accessible. We've not heard complaints that way to date, and we've had quite a lot of input and quite a lot of questions and quite a lot of interest. And what's been nice is the bulk of the questions are very specific details to the actual project and the type of building or type of materials or something to that extent. So, but we'll check back in on that regard.
Okay, any other comments on, forget where it was on the agenda. My screen just went blank. So I guess the next item we had was a review of the committee charter. Who's doing that, Pat? Is that you?
Sure. We're looking at each other. Staff is not recommending any changes to the Finance Committee charter at this time.
And I don't believe the members of the Finance Committee are suggesting any either, are we, members?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
None for me.
Okay, we will.
Okay, so, I'm sorry.
We will log it as no change. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next item we had on the agenda is the investment policy annual review. Pat? Chris, Pat, somebody?
Christine is flipping to it.
We've updated the staff titles, and I do not believe we are suggesting any other changes to the investment guidelines.
Staff is not recommending any other changes, Commissioner, other than what was pointed out that
Yeah, we have some legacy titles
Yes.
in there that we asked to be updated. You know, Rich's old title was there,
Yep.
has been changed to CEO and stuff like that, so
Yes,
Maybe-
and
I
we
think that was the only material changes.
made those changes and pulled out Eric's old title. While his duties have been split between Christine and myself, he didn't see a reason to have his title still in there.
Although I always enjoyed Eric reciting that title at every public meeting.
Yeah.
I would try to stare him down and say, get a little tongue-tied, but I just have to put that in for those new members. That was always an enjoyable part of the board meeting for me.
I almost left it in the document just so I'd have to say it again, but prudence got the better of me.
There you go. Professionalism. Is there any other business that we have for the Finance Committee from the members, or any need to go into an executive session?
No, sir.
None for me.
Okay, so I entertain a motion to adjourn the Finance Committee meeting.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. So the meeting has concluded.
We have 8 minutes until the regular meeting is scheduled to begin.